Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our webinar today on parenting the IGeneration. My name is Christine Kritzas. I'm a counseling psychologist and education director at Lighthouse Arabia. Over the past 12 years, I've worked extensively with children and families in private practice. And so today I am delighted to be spending the next hour with you speaking about such a pertinent topic and even more relevant given the COVID-19 pandemic and many parents having many concerns about their children doing homeschool, spending more time online. And so I think it is a good time to be speaking about how we navigate our way through technology in a time like this. And so the agenda for this evening will be that I will spend the next 40 minutes sharing some slides with you and going through the PowerPoint with you. The last 10 to 15 minutes, we will spend taking questions from the audience. If you do have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to pop them into the chat or in the Q&A section in the control panel at the bottom of your screen, and I will get to it at the end of the session. So if I can just share a bit about the Lighthouse Arabia, we're a mental health and wellness center located in central Dubai. We offer psychological services and psychiatric care to individuals across the lifespan. We also have occupational therapy and speech and language services. The community is at the heart of everything that we do. Since the COVID-19 pandemic hit, we have taken majority of our services online, and we also have many different support groups that we run, and we're home to the Rami Grief Center. So without any further delay, I'd like to focus on today's agenda. And we're going to be speaking about a topic that is very relevant, but often very dismissed in our society, because the very thing in question is available everywhere and anywhere. And so it seems like something quite benign, but is it really benign? And we are raising our kids in a technology-infused world. And, you know, it's more than just understanding the ins and outs of Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat. It's about understanding the relationship between technology, popular culture, and our child's development. And so my hope for today is to shed some light about how technology is impacting on our child's development, and then looking at what we can do as parents to implement some practical strategies in the home that are going to promote a healthier relationship with technology. Because the idea today is not for you to leave this talk and to go get completely unplugged, you know, and to go completely green, because we know that technology has its place in our children's worlds. But what we are seeing is that, you know, I realized the other day that in 1995, the World Wide Web came into being. And so in 2020, the World Wide Web, AKA the internet, turned 25 years old. Now, I don't want to give my age away, but I know I'm much older than the World Wide Web. So how is it that, you know, majority of us on this call are older than the World Wide Web? So how is it that we're allowing something younger than us to control us? And so just something for us to be thinking about here. Here are some quotes that I want to share with you. God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains. Actually, we don't allow the iPad in the home. We think it's too dangerous for them in effect. I can control my decision, which is that I don't use that beep. I can control my kids' decisions, which is that they're not allowed to use that beep. the short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. And these 3 quotes come from individuals who work in Silicon Valley. And these 3 quotes come from, the top quote comes from Sean Parker, who's the founding president of Facebook. The second quote came from the late Steve Jobs, founder of Apple. And the bottom quote came from Kamath Palihapitiya, who's the vice president of user growth on Facebook. And so these quotes are coming directly from individuals who work in Silicon Valley. And you want to know where the least usage of tech amongst kids is in the world? Silicon Valley, because they know the harmful effects that it's having on their child's developing brain. So it's quite ironic that we have these individuals quoting technology in these ways. So I think it's also important that we look into understanding that we are after entertainment technology more than we are after education technology. So I'm focused on entertainment technology more than I'm focused on educational technology. Okay, and I think it's important that we understand the difference here between the two, because what we're seeing with entertainment technology is that it's problematic in its ways, and the way it becomes problematic is when children are engaging in video gaming and they're using it excessively, when they are engaging in social media usage, and the primary way of relating to their peers is through the internet, and they're not having any face-to-face interactions, then it becomes problematic. When these children are watching pornography, that has a detrimental impact on how they view relationships growing up, how they are in their relationships growing up. When children are using it for information seeking, but it's just online surfing websites, going from one YouTube channel to the next, just scrolling endlessly on Facebook and Instagram, that's when we need to be on the lookout here, because children are being primed by popular culture, and what their values are and what they care about and what they want to do and be in life is very much aligned with what popular culture says is important. Okay? And so one thing that I do want to say as well is that throughout this talk, I want you to meet yourself with some compassion as parents, because you are doing the best that you can with what you've got right now. And the mere fact that you have taken time out of your evening to attend a talk like that tells me that you have your children's best interest at heart, okay? So something that I think is important here is that there was the Ditch the Label study that was done. And in the study, they found that the platforms where children experience the most cyberbullying, 42% on Instagram, 37% on Facebook, 31% on Snapchat, 12% on WhatsApp, 10% on YouTube, and 9% on Twitter. This is where children are being cyberbullied. And the impact of social media on a child's mental health is that they are more subjected to cyberbullying. They are expending excessive time online. They are isolating themselves. They are maybe oversharing things about themselves. Their boundaries are not in place. They may experience difficulties with privacy. And a lot of children are experiencing body image issues as a result of spending time online. What they found is that there have been increased rates of depression, anxiety, and psychological distress in our children. And in 2017, they did a national survey on 10,678 girls across the United States, from grade 5 to grade 12. And they found that children's confidence declines more than 25% throughout the middle school years. One of the reasons being because of puberty and the changes in their bodies. the second reason being social media, and how media has portrayed women to have this ideal body. And a lot of these girls then internalize that and expect that they will have that growing up too. So very important to understand how this is impacting on a child's confidence and their self-identity. And something to remember is that when we minimize the importance of social media in our kids' lives, we create a gap between ourselves and them. So we have to find a way to embrace their world, but still protect them, okay? Because today's children are digital natives, and the parents are digital immigrants, right? We need to find a way to embrace their world. And something that I just want parents to think about is the following. If your child turns 16 years old and they're ready to start driving a car, do you take the keys of the car and hand it to them and say, yeah, my child, start driving the car, you ready? Without giving the child adequate driving lessons, making sure the child knows the etiquette of the road? Of course not. As a parent, you would protect your child. You would make sure that they go for driving lessons, that they get their license first, that they know the etiquette of the road, that they first drive with you a few times before you give them keys to their own car, right? Then why is it that we will just give a child a smartphone without teaching them the etiquette around a smartphone, without teaching them social skills, without teaching them how to set boundaries when it comes to their smartphone? Because that phone will take them a lot further than any car will ever take them, just from sitting in the corner of their room. They can access parts of the world that you would never know they would be able to access, and predators that they would never have been able to access any other way. So very important that we start equating it in such a way that we be more intentional about what we're giving our children to go out and use, without having given them the training and experience thereof. And you know, the African proverb, it takes a village to raise our kids. Well, the village that's raising our kids, especially when they're spending time online, is the likes of Justin Bieber, is the likes of Ryan's toy review on the top left corner, is the likes of Logan Paul, who is a prankster, who is your child's super peer. Now, I don't know if you guys can recall back in the day, at least I know this happened in my family. Let's say 30 years back, my mom comes to me and says, Christine, I don't like you playing with that girl. She seems like a really negative influence, and I don't like how she bullies other kids on the playground. I don't want you playing with her. And I would say, okay, and no, you can't go to her birthday party. Okay, I understand. Nowadays, your child, you're not too fazed about who your child's playing on the playground with, because that's not who's influencing your child. Who's influencing your child more are the likes of Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez, Kardashians, Ryan, top left corner, Ryan's toy review. This little kid has 21 million subscribers, and he earned $22 million in 2018. And how did he do that? Just through opening up toys. And so this teaches kids that I don't need to do much in order to be successful in life. I just need to engage in two values, which are sex and consumerism, in order to make it in life. And the messages that children are receiving is that you can influence others by being sensational and sexual, okay? And there's this image of show thyself rather than know thyself. There is this need to do anything to get attention. I will do whatever I can to get as many likes, okay? And if I want to be successful in life, all I need to do is be rich or famous. okay? So this is what we are up against at the moment. These are your kids' super peers. And so when we're looking at the facts, what we're finding is that Kaiser Foundation research study indicated that in 2005, children were spending 5.5 hours per day engaging in non-school related technology. And as the years have gone on, screen time usage has just built up. And what we found in 2019 was that 8 to 12-year-olds were spending 5 hours on entertainment technology alone. This is not including their educational technology in school. And teens are spending 7.5 hours on non-academic screen time. Okay, and these are stats straight out of Common Sense Media. And so what we're finding is that excessive use of entertainment technology is harmful to children on a psychological level, on an intellectual level, on an emotional level, on a neurological, physical, and social level. And we will go into a bit more detail of how it is that this is happening. So when we're looking at the impact on self-identity, something that I want us to understand is that one of the tasks of childhood and adolescence is identity formation. And because we are social beings and we engage in self-observation and feedback and information from the social world, this plays a fundamental role in how children are forming their identities. And what we see is that children nowadays are being molded into who they need to be just based off of what they're seeing on social media. And I'll give you an example of how this starts to happen. You might find that a 11-year-old decides she wants to start going on Instagram. And this 11-year-old loves playing guitar. And she takes a photo of her new guitar and she posts it on Instagram. And what she sees is that she gets about 15 likes for that post. And a few weeks later, this 11-year-old girl gets her mom to take a photo of her playing the guitar herself. And in that post, she gets 60 likes. So what does that start to communicate to the little girl? That if I show myself, with the guitar, I get more likes. And a few weeks later, this little girl decides she's going to put some makeup on and she's going to play guitar. And how many likes does she get then? 200 likes. What does that communicate to the little girl? That in order for me to be accepted in the world, I need to look a certain way, I need to be a certain way. And slowly but surely, this little girl starts to move away from who she really is and what she really enjoys, which is playing guitar, and starts focusing more on what she looks like. And so this social media world is making children show thyself more than know thyself. It's more about what I look like to others than what I actually am. I'll never forget, about 3 years ago, I had a 16-year-old in a session with me, and this 16-year-old had issues with her body. She was very aware, very insecure about how her body looked, poor body image. And she said to me, I am going to starve myself until Friday because I have a birthday party on Friday and I want to wear my new mini skirt. And I want to take a photo of myself in my new mini skirt so that I can post it on Instagram. And I was amazed to hear that the teenager was more concerned about what she would look like in a photograph than what she actually looked like in real life. That what was portrayed on social media was far more important than what she actually looked like, right? And so just to see, this is how it's shaping kids. What we see is that when a child has a strong self-identity, it gives that child a sense of consistency and stability over time. They learn how to be more unique. They are more aware. They develop their self-esteem. But now what we're finding is that their self-identity is completely externalized, and identity is being projected onto children. Children are being told what they should look like. Okay? So just, it's very important how we see how these kids are moving away from who they truly are. Okay? How it impacts the brain is another issue. What we are seeing is that scientists know that long periods of continuous partial attention put the brain into a heightened state of stress, which people refer to as techno brain burnout. Okay? What we're seeing is that children's attention is fragmented at the moment. Kids have the concentration span of, the length of their attention span is as long as an Instagram story, because that's only how long they need to concentrate for. And what I want to say about this and how it's impacting on children's learning is that children are watching YouTube all day long. Children are watching these apps that are very animated. They push this button and this thing jumps out. They push that button and that thing explodes. It's very colorful, very alive. So these apps know how to keep a child's attention for longer and longer. Then this child goes and sits in a classroom, and it's their first day of grade 1, and they are sitting in the classroom, and Mrs. Robinson, who's wearing a gray uniform, bless her soul, a gray uniform, and she's got this blackboard behind her, and she's writing on the board with a white piece of chalk, is not going to keep the attention of the 6-year-old who had just spent 3 hours on YouTube, where things were jumping out of everywhere. Mrs. Robinson isn't going to explode if you touch her, or she's not going to change color, or she's not going to spin around and become a unicorn and then teach you in unicorn style. So what we are doing when we allow our kids to spend more time online is that we are teaching them that things will always keep them engaged. So we are really messing with their ability to concentrate and focus. So what we're seeing is that reading out of a book is far better for a child's learning than reading on a screen. Okay, and so something to also note is that children's default is impulsive and emotional, and we need to be aware of that. We need to understand that there's far too much multitasking that's happening these days. And what we know about multitasking is that it's a myth, that people cannot actually do 2 things at once. It's the brain just switching from one task to another in rapid succession. And so you end up doing things a lot slower. Okay? So multitasking is fragmented attention. Right? And another study has shown that media multitasking reduces the gray matter in the brain. So these are just some things to be on the lookout for of how it's impacting children's developing brain. Relationships, what we're seeing how it's impacting children's relationships and how they relate to their peers. Children are spending more time online than ever. Children are spending less time having face-to-face contact with their peers. About a year ago, I was sitting in a coffee shop, and the table next to me, there were 3 people sitting. The one person was on their tablet, the other person was on their phone, and the other person was reading the menu. Now, I don't want to give generations away here, but the person reading the menu was the grandmother. The person on the phone was the mother, and the person on the tablet was the little boy. And I actually felt so sorry for that grandmother, because all she wanted to do was to hear what everybody else wanted to order and to have a conversation with her daughter and her grandson. But they were so locked into their phones and devices that they didn't even realize. And so what we're seeing is that children are not learning how to communicate with others. They are learning how you can end a friendship just by a click of a button. I can just unfollow you, or I can block you. I don't have to engage in effective conflict resolution with you. And what they see nowadays is that children are showing more signs of falling on the autism spectrum than ever before, without having a formal diagnosis of autism, but just because these children are spending so much time online, they cannot read social cues anymore. They don't know how to start a conversation, and they don't know how to end a conversation in real time. So these are just some things that we're seeing. And what we know is that relationships are really changing how children think about, technology is really changing how children think about these relationships. What we see is that more and more children are showing signs of narcissism. They are showing that they are quite self-absorbed, very much in their own world, worried about how many likes they're getting. And there's a decline in empathy, and children are losing the ability to be compassionate with those around them. So these are some things that we are seeing. And what we know is that relationships are the single greatest predictor of happiness. But the relationships we're referring to are those deep, intimate connections that can only be formed when we're having that face-to-face contact with people, and when we are learning social skills, okay, and when we are being empathic with those around us. And what we're finding is that families are spending less time together. Even parents are quite fragmented with their attention. A lot of parents are spending, time on their phones, whether it be at dinner time. And parents are also sometimes less tech savvy, so they don't know how to engage with their kids and to hear what's happening in their world. So what we're seeing is that the home environment and communication in the home is deteriorating as a result of high-tech usage. If you want to see families connect, turn the Wi-Fi off. Very quick way to get to see how families will start connecting with one another. What we're seeing as well is how it impacts children's physical and mental health, okay? That's another thing that we are noticing. We are seeing how on a physical level, children are engaging in sedentary behaviors. They aren't moving enough. They are spending less time exercising. They're eating more junk food, and this can really impact on their physical health. They are experiencing a sleep loss epidemic at the moment. Children are sleeping less than 8 hours a night, and anything less than 7 to 8 hours of sleep is known as sleep deprivation. And these children need between 9 to 11 hours of sleep a night so that their brains can consolidate information from the day before. It is so important that the body goes to work when we go to sleep. But these kids aren't engaging in deep sleep cycles. And this is because of the blue light that emanates from your child's smartphone. The blue light that emanates from the phone is the same light that surgeons use in theater when they're operating on a patient at 3 a.m. in the morning to alert the surgeon to operate on the left leg and not the right leg. That same light is emanating from your child's device at 10 p.m. in the evening, which delays the release of melatonin, which doesn't allow your child to go into that deep sleep cycle. And what we're seeing is that when children don't get sufficient sleep, they wake up in the morning and their amygdala, which is the emotional brain, is 60% more reactive, which means that there's a link between temper tantrums and a lack of sleep. If your child is not getting enough sleep in a night, they are more likely to throw a temper tantrum. Okay, so it really impacts on their mood. They may experience depression and anxiety, and they may actually become addicted to their technology as a result of this. And what we're seeing is that there is an attention economy at the moment. If you haven't watched the documentary on Netflix called Social Dilemma, please do yourself a favor, because in that documentary, they explain how Facebook and YouTube and WhatsApp and Instagram and all of these social media platforms are making money off of how long they can hold your child's attention online. And so what we see is that they are optimizing for this. And that is why on WhatsApp, you will see that it will say, so-and-so is typing back to you, because it keeps you online for longer. So I'm not going to get off because I can see they are typing back. So I'm going to wait and wait and wait. And we also see that there's endless scrolling that's happening on Instagram and Facebook. If you have ever tried to leave Facebook, have you seen how many messages you get about how this and this friend are going to miss you if you leave Facebook? You have got so many different friends on Facebook trying to play on your guilt so that you stay online. Okay? So these things are all happening to keep our attention and to keep us addicted. Okay? So now that we've spoken about what is happening, what can we do about it? And so what I will say is that if your family values are in place and they are strong enough, that can beat what is happening with popular culture and what popular culture is teaching your kids. And so if you have your family values in place and you have sufficient boundaries in place when it comes to technology usage in the home, you can be the one to navigate that relationship with technology and have a healthier relationship with technology yourself as well as for your kids. Having physical habits in place. Children don't do as you say, children do as you do. And so if you wake up in the morning and you go for a run, your child's going to learn that that's a great way to cope with stresses in life. If you wake up in the morning and you meditate, invite your child to join you. Teach your child, don't preach to your child. Teach them how to meditate. Do it with them. And get your kids to engage in free time and playtime, to play outside, to in order to develop social skills and emotional intelligence, get your children to play board games. It's a great way to teach kids social skills, especially over the festive season now. And these are just some ways that one can start getting the ball rolling to have a healthier relationship with technology. Set limits to your child's exposure online. Emphasize the values in your home. Get a values board in your home with all the different values that you want to instill in your children. And, you know, when your child does something that is out of line and disrespectful, you can point to the values and say you are grounded because you went up against one of our core values in our home, which is respect. And for that reason, you will be grounded. So engaging in values-driven parenting, spending time highlighting your child's passions and their strengths so that they get to know themselves better. And so important that you surround yourself with healthy role models, that you teach your kids about healthier role models out there, other than those that they're seeing on social media, okay? And really walking the talk when it comes to doing these things. As far as the brain is concerned, it would be really important to teach your children mindfulness. And mindfulness is focusing on what's happening right now and doing one thing at a time. Avoid multitasking, okay? It doesn't do the brain any wonders. And so avoiding multitasking, getting your children to play chess is a great way to start building that attention muscle. Because through playing chess, they learn about having to engage in some strategic thinking. They realize that every action has a consequence. Getting children to build puzzles is a great way to keep them engaged and to build that attention muscle, because they're focusing on what they're doing there and then. They aren't thinking about the future. So making them do one task at a time is going to help with really building the parts of the brain that are needed and necessary for learning. Okay? And make sure that your children have blue light blocking glasses, which will help with them sleeping better in the evenings. And blue light screen protectors on their devices are a great way too. As far as relationships are concerned, it's so important that you carve 10 to 15 minutes out of your day that you can spend quality time with your children. And I would label that time that I'm spending with my kids. So, because if you can label the time, when your child gets into bed that evening, they know that they had that time with you. So to look at your child and say, it's mommy and Jake time. And for the next 15 minutes, we're going to do an activity that you would like us to do together. And then you need to ditch your phone and make sure that you are down to your child's level. If you're playing a board game with them, get down on the floor with them. Make positive eye contact with them, because research suggests that parents make more negative eye contact with their kids than positive eye contact. We're often saying to our kids, look me in the eyes, go take a bath. But we don't often say to our kids, look me in the eyes, I want to tell you how much I love you. And so you want to cultivate that connection, and you want to create a platform for meaningful conversations with a child, right? And making emotional intelligence a top priority. And what I will also say is that some media recommendations that I will share with you is that children younger than 18 months should be avoiding media usage. And this is adapted from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Children between the ages of 18 to 24 months should only watch high quality programming. Children who are in preschool should watch no more than 1 hour per day of high quality programming. And if they're 6 years or older, the golden rule is that you don't want to let their media usage displace other important tasks and activities in childhood. Because I often have parents asking me, how much time is too much? And what I say to parents is, has your child had time to exercise today? Have they had a full night's sleep? Have they had a family meal where there were no devices present? Have they had some unplugged downtime? Have they had some playtime outside? And if they've had these things and there's still an hour left in the day, then yes, they can go on and play some entertainment technology that has been screened by you, not a problem. But don't let the entertainment technology replace these other important life skills and important activities, okay? And co-view the media with your kids to help them learn from what people are doing. You know, you can watch a series with them. Let's say your teenager loves watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Watch it with them so that you can sit with them afterwards and say, what do you think about how she just spoke to her mother? You know, what do you think about that? So that you are involved in their world, understanding their world. If your child loves playing Minecraft, get to understand how to play Minecraft. Get them to teach you how to play Minecraft. But at the same time, make sure that you're in control. Yeah, make sure that you're the one setting boundaries with your children. Make sure that, you know, you're the one who is their media mentor, and have sufficient boundaries in place in the home. For example, no studying with a phone in your room, and decide which time of day the devices get turned off. The devices don't charge in your bedroom. The devices charge in the kitchen or in parents' room or in the family room. And choose and diversify your media. Common Sense Media is a great site to visit, because on there they do reviews on children's movies. They tell you that in the 11th minute of this movie, the grandmother swears. In the 15th minute of this movie, there's a violent scene. So they prep parents to know when we need to stop the movie or when we need to tell our kids to close their ears, or so they are able to guide you for the best choices when it comes to what is age appropriate for my child to be viewing here right now. And using media in a way that promotes the interaction and connection and creativity. And so these are just some things to look into doing. And balancing that online and offline time with other hobbies that are fulfilling for kids. Being with their friends, playing board games. We've actually developed a board game. But here are some other helpful websites to check out, which will help you navigate your way in your child's usage of tech, which is helping them and not hurting them. And the key for every parent is to facilitate a healthy, balanced relationship with technology, being aware of its pitfalls and helping children integrate media into their lives in positive ways. Okay? And if you found this content relevant, we are often sharing pertinent, relevant information for parents on our parenting platforms. We have @Lighthearted Parenting on Instagram, where we're sharing pertinent, relevant information around parenting tips, around child mental health, around authentic parenting. We also have the @SmartHeart board game account, where we're sharing information around cultivating emotional intelligence in your kids. SmartHeart board game is a game that's been developed by psychologists, which aims at facilitating emotional intelligence in kids. So if you're interested in learning more about that, go check it out on Instagram. We also have the @Lighthouse Arabia and @Dr. Salia Afridi accounts, where we share information with adults around personal growth and mental health and self-love and experiencing that personal growth. And then we also have platforms for our youth on TikTok, and as well as Lighthouse Insights on Instagram. So go and take a look at that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen with you now so that we can take some questions. Because we come to the end of our session here.
Thank you so much, Christine.
You're most welcome. So I see that that people are saying they can hear clearly. So I'm really glad to hear that. But I'm going to be around now for the next 15 minutes to take any questions from the parents online around technology usage, or if you have any questions around mental health, children, I'm here to take those questions now.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So maybe I can start with my question until they start asking.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I wanted to know suggestions for board games for 7 years old.
So we've actually, we actually spoke about it yesterday, but we've developed a board game for children which aims at facilitating emotional intelligence in kids. It's called SmartHeart, and it teaches kids an emotional vocabulary, and it's a great way for a parent to learn about what happens in their child's world, what's happening on the playground, in the classroom, on the sports field, on play dates, and it gives children a platform to be able to express how they feel in certain situations. It teaches kids a range of emotions, because what we know is that majority of individuals only know 3 emotions: happy, sad, and angry. Okay. And so this board game helps to broaden a child's emotional vocabulary, to broaden their emotional granularity, so that children can start learning the difference between feeling irritated versus frustrated, feeling angry versus infuriated. And it's a way for a parent to build a deeper connection with their child. So that's one game that we encourage parents to look into, because it is helping children foster empathy and social skills at the same time. and it's spending quality time with the kid, because we don't have that many hours in a day, and time is such a precious commodity. But apart from that, I would say that board games in general can really go a very long way. So Monopoly, I think, is a great game to teach kids about the value of money, right? To teach kids about how you've got X amount of money, you get to choose how you're going to spend it. They learn about turn taking. They learn about being a good loser. They learn about being a good sportsman, how to be when they win, how to wait their turn. Cluedo, another lovely board game for children to play. Trivial Pursuit. These are all games that I would encourage, as well as playing chess, which is not a board game per
What's
se.
the first one that you said?
What's
the name of the board game that you came up with?
That we developed, Smart Heart. So I will put
the first.
The first one is Smart. I'll put it in the chat. Smart Heart board game. And we're on Instagram. You can go and take a look at Smart Heart board game. We sell the games exclusively from the Lighthouse Arabia. And we currently are doing shipping as well. So that's the one thing. The other thing I would say is looking at playing chess with your children, because through playing chess, children learn how to engage in effective decision making, because they learn that if I move here, there will be a consequence later. So they learn how to engage in strategic thinking. I would say building puzzles with your children is a great way for them to be focused on one task at a time. That's another great way. Doing outdoor activities, taking your children horse riding, taking them rock climbing. These are some indoor activities to do. One of the best things you can do for your children is for them to come to you and say, Mommy, I'm feeling bored. If they come and they tell you I'm feeling bored, you must know you've succeeded as a parent. You must know you're doing a very good job, because in 2020, for your child to come and tell you that they're feeling bored tells me that you've either turned the Wi-Fi off in the home, and you've either limited their device usage. So now what they need to do is they need to go and be creative. Okay, so I can't play on my device. So what do? I go and I build a fort in the living room out of the blankets. I go and I build a tree house. I go outside and I pretend that I'm a unicorn and I pick flowers in the garden for my mommy. And in that way, it starts breeding creativity. So we want our children to be bored. We want to watch their relationship with technology so that it's not hurting them, but that it's helping them. And there are ways to go about doing that, because I've seen it. I've seen, when I go sit in a coffee shop, I've seen parents sitting there and they're having a conversation and the children are drawing in their coloring in books. And so it can be done. But I've also seen parents taking their kids to a restaurant and everybody's on their devices. So I see there's some questions here, Amal, that I'll finish answering yours for you there about board games.
How long should they stay on screen, like per day?
So depending on their age, as I said earlier, if they are in preschool, 1 hour of high quality programming is what is recommended. If they are older than that, you want to make sure that they have achieved all the other tasks that they needed to achieve in the day. Have they exercised that day for 30 minutes? Have they had some playtime outside? Have they had their 9 to 11 hours of sleep? Have they had their homework time? Have they had their downtime where they're doing nothing? And if they've had these things and there's still an hour left in the day, then okay, let them play their Minecraft or, you know, their Mario Brothers on their Nintendo. Okay. But you need to decide what is okay for your family based off your values. I cannot tell you that I think 1 hour is fine when actually you think 30 minutes is good enough. Then you're going to do 30 minutes. You must do what feels right for you and your family based off your value system, right? But all I'm saying is that if your child is not getting sufficient sleep and your child is not getting sufficient physical exercise and your child is not getting playtime outside with their peers or face-to-face contact with their peers, and they're using all of that time to be on Minecraft, then we've got a problem. I see we have a question here from...
Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome, Amal. So I see we've got a question here, how to get anger out of a child. What is the best way to resolve their anger? So I would say Dan Siegel, who's a clinical professor from UCLA, has coined the term name it to tame it. And what he explains is that when you name a difficult emotion that a child is experiencing, it soothes them. The brain sends soothing neurotransmitters from the higher parts of the brain to the limbic brain. So if you look at the child and you say, I can see you feeling quite angry right now, it helps them process that emotion. They feel heard and seen. And what you can also do is try externalize the anger by asking the child, I can see you feeling really angry right now. Do you want to draw me a picture of what that anger looks like? So you're getting the child to actually externalize the anger, put it down on paper, and you're also naming the emotion that the child is experiencing. So first acknowledge and validate the feeling that the child has so that they also know that that's what that feeling is called. It's called angry, or that feeling is called irritated. And so you can also teach children how to regulate their emotions through engaging in breathing exercises. There's elevator breathing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with elevator breathing, but it's telling your child that they must imagine that their body is a tall building in Dubai. Not very difficult to do in this part of the world. Your body is a tall building and there's an elevator in your chest. And every time you breathe in through your nose, I want you to imagine that the elevator is going all the way to the top of your throat. And as you breathe out through your mouth, the elevator is going all the way to the bottom. And this gets children to just focus on their breathing. And so when they're feeling angry or worried or sad, practice elevator breathing with them. Or practice 5 finger star breathing. So starfish breathing. Breathe in and out, and in and out. And in and out, and in and out, and in and out, okay? So you want to build a robust toolbox for your kids. You want to get your kids to be focusing on that emotional intelligence aspect as well. And so it's so important that we are investing in our kids' EQ and that we're being proactive. I have some parents bringing their children in for play therapy, and the child doesn't have any specific issues. The parent just wants the child to learn more skills to cope with stress in life, to give the child a robust toolbox so that when they are in trouble or they are struggling or they are writing a test and they start panicking, they've got tools to draw from. Okay? I see another question here. I'm a mother of 3 kids. I'm setting a rule at home that the kids should sleep at 9 p.m. My kids let me feel guilty and advise that all our friends sleep after 11 p.m. How can I handle the situation and let them feel that it is the correct thing? So firstly, well done on you for the 9 p.m. bedtime. And when your child comes to you and says, but everybody else is doing it, everybody else is going to bed at 11 p.m., but everybody else has a smartphone, you turn around and you say, that's exactly why you're not getting it. Because one day when you're 35 years old and your next door neighbor drives a Maserati and you can't afford a Maserati, but you go out and you buy a Maserati on credit because everybody else has one, you end up being in debt. So for that reason, I'm still going to stand my ground. And so what I would suggest is that you have a values board in your home. And one of the values is health. In our home, we value health. And because we value health, for that reason, I'm saying that bedtime is at 9 p.m. And we will stick to that because that's a value in our home. And it doesn't need to be a value in everybody else's home. But what I can tell you is that children need boundaries. And the more boundaries children have in place, the more safe and secure your child actually feels. The more routine and structure there is in your child's world, it is an antidote to the anxiety out there. So it is so important that you do set boundaries with your kids, that you do have that 9 p.m. bedtime, and that they cannot argue you on it. You remain consistent and you learn to handle the guilt that comes with it, because just know that deep down, you know you're doing the right thing, and deep down, they know you're doing the right thing, but they're going to push you as far as they can. But you hold your ground, you hold that tension, because at the end of the day, children are experiencing a sleep loss epidemic, which is impacting on their mental health significantly, which is impacting on their school performance significantly, and their ability to retain information significantly. So you stand your ground with that 9 p.m. bedtime, and you just remember that we're very proud of you.